Ran away real fast and just missed it. Uh, Rob, super excited to have you here today. Excited to chat. We're going to keep it super casual. But first off, congrats on the rebrand. I know we had you on Slice of Healthcare a while back. This is definitely more casual, and we're not just going to be talking in the context of healthcare because I know you're expanding. But real quick, for those that don't know you, for first off, everyone, Rob rocks. He's awesome. Um, give them a quick snapshot of your background, and then we'll talk more about the company. I actually have a pair of your shoes here, which I'm excited to show as well, and we'll go from there. And can you tell I had four or five espressos today? Like I'm fired up for this.
I'm coming in hot behind you.
I love it.
Yeah, hey everyone. So I'm Rob. I'm the founder, CEO of what was formerly known as Gales and is rebranded as Stand, shoes designed to disperse energy when you're standing all day, kind of like the mats behind the countertop. So would consider myself an accidental footwear founder. Got in this crazy journey back when I was working 16-hour days in a mailroom. And my feet were just getting crushed, blisters on top of blisters, and I figured there's got to be a better way. So what I ended up doing, put an image online, went viral before social media existed. 300,000 hits on this website called Stumble Upon. Found a local Italian cobbler. He goes, "Come on by, I'd love to make you the shoes." Punchline is, he quoted me more than I'd saved on my minimum wage, and I couldn't afford it. So the deal that I cut was I went in and became a shoe cobbler as a volunteer and learned how to make shoes by scratch. So that was it. No visions of building anything beyond just making comfortable shoes for myself that looked great and felt great. That took a life of its own. My first footwear company ended up on the pages of GQ and celebrities and athletes, and did some really fun stuff for charity. All the while, my full-time focus was in building direct-to-consumer brands. Companies like Castor Mattress, Warby Parker, Rent the Runway, Procter & Gamble. So in 4 years, we went from startup to doing a little bit over 5 billion in sales across almost around 250 different companies. And what was really great about that journey is figuring out it's not just about funding, it's timing is a little bit part of it, but it's brands that solve real problems are the ones that have staying power and stick and scale successfully. And so some really interesting backgrounds came to a head when the pandemic hit. That's what we talked about on our last get together. But in short, found out that nurses' feet were unprotected in the ER and the ICU. Anything that spilled off the tables was getting through their Crocs and Hokas and Nikes and On Clouds. So in some cases, they had something more in common with their patients than they wanted to. HIV, SARS, COVID, MERS, E. coli. So it started as a protective shoe, antimicrobial, protects from fluids and splashes. Fun story how this all came together in the first place. But we launched that, and the happy accident in the lab that led us to where we're at today. Turns out the shoes and the compound that we use are really good for standing. And what we realized is the majority of people in standing professions wear athletic shoes, which are great for sports. They store energy and they put it back in your body. They do the intended job that they're marketed for. You run faster, you jump higher. It's the antithesis of what you want if you're on your feet all day. You don't want the full force of your body hitting the ground and pushing back up. So Stand is our new rebrand, and it's a standing shoe. It's a new category. If you're on your feet, you're not trying to cut time off your marathon, there's way better shoes for that. In fact, I've got some that I know and love. But if you're on your feet all day and are looking for something to relieve pain on your knees, back, and joints, got you covered.
I really like the focus because it's also so I didn't think about it before we talked the first time, and then I've thought about it a lot more since then. But there are so many professions where they're not necessarily moving around all day, but they're just standing in one spot. And it really the potential is limitless for you because you look at there's the people at the amusement parks that are standing all day. There's obviously are the clinical staff at they're still walking around, which the good part is too, like just because you're saying this is the shoe for standing, you can still walk in them, right? It's not
100%.
and it's so I really think it's truly limitless what you can end up doing with this. And I haven't put this out yet, but I've been wearing a pair of them, and i it's you kinda ruined Crocs is kind of and other shoes because once you take so you feel like there's no pressure on your knees is what I've gotten so far with them. And then you put on the other shoe and like by the way, I'm putting on like ons after this. So it's not like I'm putting on like a shoe that has no support. And you substantially feel the difference after, which just shows you how much it's actually working. So kudos to you and the team for putting this together. Where do you want to take this? Like what has been I'm sure you've had your fair share of challenges so
Mhm.
far. By the way, big fan of the rebrand. I think it just for what you want to do. The other way was you were just going to be healthcare essentially if you were with that name, and this really opens you up. I'm assuming that was part of the rebrand, right?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you see this heading? Like, where in an ideal world,
Yeah.
what happens with the company?
Yeah, we're the solution to pain for people who work thankless jobs and have not had footwear designed for them. This is something that I realized when we looked at the landscape is, and again, I love athletic shoes for the job they're intended for, but if you take a look at the marketplace, it's pretty much all either ultra leisure or it's hyper performance, but that misses half the world's population that stands for a living. You don't have $200, $300 to spend on a pair of kicks. You also don't have shoes that are designed to keep your body better protected at the end of the day. So we stand for those who stand for us is at our core. Anybody that's working in a profession that's on their feet, it's kind of an amazing opportunity to get to actually build something that solves a pain for that audience. So where we'd like to go, we're rolling out business programs. We're launching the first major one next Friday. I'm pretty excited about. We're looking at quick service restaurants. We're looking at theme parks, cruise lines, all the industries where professions stand. Either where there is a uniform program in place or where there's not. We found some really amazing solutions that make it lighter on both businesses and employees as well. So we'd love to change around the way that people think about the uniform. I think some unfortunate findings through our research that we found is if you're in a standing profession, by the time you get to retirement age, it looks very different than someone who sits at a desk. Your body's gotten beat to heck. And unfortunately, it means you got to work a little bit longer because they're often underpaid. And by the time you get that retirement age, you can't live your life the way that I believe you should. And so, holy grail and ultimate solution for us is give people their lives back, not only at retirement, but during the week, during their days, and get to enjoy the weekends and time off. But usually, what happens when, and I know I work 16-hour days, by the time the weekend rolls around, I don't want to do anything. I want to be off my feet and just recover. So, for us, it's a pretty exciting opportunity to be able to provide that relief day in and day out for individuals who work for a living. And then the other aspect of it as well, when we looked at safety shoes, because we've got a non-slip variant as well, they don't look great, they don't feel great. And I'll be honest, if I have to show up to work in a chicken suit, um, I don't really want to wear that out. It doesn't make me feel great. So by introducing something that is a lot more stylish into the workplace, that has its presence on the runway and in fashion, but it's for work, to me, I feel like is a pretty cool thing to be able to offer employees. So not only do you feel great physically, but you feel great based on what you're wearing. And I don't think that there's any reason why at this day and age people need to go to work in clothing and shoes specifically that don't make them feel good. So being able to heal and protect the body and physicality, put something on individuals' feet so you feel a lot better about what you're actually wearing. You can wear these things out on date night when your shift ends. And then just for the general masses and population, seniors, mothers. I'm just found out I'm an expecting father, so I can't wait
Congrats.
to, thank you. I can't wait to enter that stage of my life. But shoot, everybody's on their feet all day. And if we can be a solution to pain, I think that's a pretty fun mission to chase.
I want to see a social post where you make a like one of one custom pair for your child, and all of a sudden it shows that your child was able to stand earlier on because that would be pretty cool. Even if you make it up, but yeah, I just I'm just so excited for you because I see so much potential. Like I mean, I could even see a world where, when you buy a Veridesk, you're getting a pair of your shoes with it because it's like you don't need the mat anymore. You just need these shoes when
Mhm.
you're standing up all day. And let's see if I can get this first try. I'm gonna try to do something goofy here, but like so yeah, I have a pair of your shoes right here. Hey, yeah, you have the same one. Uh this is like citron, right? Um
Yeah.
I wanted this color when you and I were talking about which color I wanted of the shoes because when I wear these out around in like populated areas, your shoes are like, um, I think for like a second pair, I'll end up going with like a black or a gray because that's one that you can wear out all the time. But when you want people to notice, like, and just to show people, like, you did a great job on the design. I mean, because to compare it to not, you are totally different than this, right? But this is
Mhm.
still, I would say, a comparison. Like when you look at like the typical, like, look at this and then look at this, everyone. This is like you did a great job with it. And I know, just knowing you, how much you think about things like design along with comfort, right? Comfort was number
Mhm.
one, but design. Talk us through because this is not what the original version
Right.
looked like. The original version very much looked like, and you have one, yeah. It was still a good looking shoe, but it was very much your typical in a hospital setting shoe,
Mhm.
right? Um, so the name change was to appeal to a larger market. I'm assuming the design change was as well?
Yeah. So we did this kind of backwards, but for us is forwards. We started with comfort. That's everything. We recognize that at the end of the day, the thing that consumers care the most about, maybe even more than comfort, even subconsciously, is how it looks. So when we started, it was really mission driven to protect feet from fluids in a hospital setting. So the full laser focus was let's just make sure that this protects feet, it's comfortable, and it does the job. Well, then after we played around with some iterations with the design, so you go, well, we could make this thing look like anything we want. How about we actually put some design power into this and make the shoe look really attractive to expand the appeal? And so that was about an 18-month process. We've got a phenomenal designer who's now one of our investors as well. Shout out to Richard. Just an incredible mindset and human being, blending hard and soft for gender neutrality, but really strong masculinity and soft for femininity. And it just works through the design aesthetic. So the idea was now that we've really nailed the comfort, and by the way, by nailing it, it really came from listening and learning from our 1-star reviews. That's where I spend most of my customer time. So I'm still on phones and I'm still doing recorded interviews. And anytime somebody has an issue with the shoe, I say, I really appreciate the feedback. What can we do better? And that's how we probably have iterated as fast as we have. Just lean into the stuff you didn't get right. No one's got a crystal ball, and as good a job as I think that we do, there's always room for improvement. So some stuff that we learned through the way, how to make it more breathable while still being fluid protective. So we added in new vents in the side. We found this really interesting thing where the shoes squeaked because it was such a smooth wall and lining with compression socks that were synthetic. But a lot of people were wearing compression socks, so we solved for that. And as we walk through from the whips, the fit, the style, the aesthetic, it's really all been customer complaints driven. And then we follow up and say, thank you so much for taking the time. Here's the new shoe. Did we get this one right? And that's been such a key fundamental part of our design process, our brand process, and even the evolution. Going back to the name, how the name came up. For people in healthcare, Florence Nightingale, founder of modern nursing, resonated a lot. And we kept getting asked the question because organically customers are finding us, bartenders, chefs, hospitality workers. And what does Gales mean? And what does the shoe do? It actually came about when I was talking at one of our investor summits. I had this idea of united we stand. Wouldn't that be so cool if we have a visual of all of these amazing workers passing shoe from hand to hand and highlighting all these professions that are never on the front of the billboards and don't get the recognition they deserve? And wouldn't that be really cool if we could unite the clans? And someone raised their hand and made a really valid point. They said, I don't know that everybody wants to be lumped together into this massive group. And I go, okay, yeah, it's a really good point. People love their subcultures and subgroups. So what if we drop United and what was left was Stand? So on my Uber on the way to the airport, I just went on GoDaddy, and for $6.95, I grabbed the domain and started talking about it, seeing how it was resonating, and it really stuck. Even with, and this was one of my worries at first, when you build a brand for a demographic of people that's as strong and passionate as the healthcare community, what we wanted to make sure is, are we still preserving this essence? This is why we were founded. This is the community that we want to continue serving as long as we're able to. And how does this resonate with that community? And interestingly enough, it was met with such overwhelming positivity. Honestly, this makes it easier for me to talk to my coworkers about it. I love the name. The Stand Plus is the design, which lends itself to Stand Plus Health, Stand Plus Charitable Give Back, Stand Plus as an individual. I stand for a living, but I'm so much more. And so the name in and of itself, I think we're even discovering its full potential in real time, but it really has resonated with our core demographic. It's evolved with us over time. And now we're really proud we just started shipping these a couple of weeks ago, get this live and see what the response is in the marketplace.
When is the annual stand competition going to happen where you have two people to see who can stand the longest in your shoes? That's what I want to see.
It's funny you say that, because I got laughed at when I presented this. I go, I'm sure there's someone out there who likes breaking Guinness Book of World Records. Let me see who wants to do it, and I'll give them a pair of shoes.
If what would be really cool is if you could actually, this would be next to impossible, right? But if you could do something with Mr. Beast on like a standing competition, like, because he'll throw in a bunch of cash to it too, like he always does with everything. But that would be pretty cool. That might be something to take a shot in the dark to see if he would do something. Because that would be so cool. It would see how long someone could stand in the shoe. I've gone a couple hours in them so far, and they feel great. I do like them at the standing desk
Yeah.
because it's not exactly, um, it's what's it called? It's not exactly comfy to stand at your desk. Even when you have the mat, it doesn't exactly feel too great. And then
Mm-hmm.
all of us, I mean, we'd all be much better if we can stand when we're working versus sitting in a chair like I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Although once these chairs are so comfy, but it is important to stand. What like so I know you have a lot going on. What is kind of the next area of focus? I know you launched a new shoe, but then you also have another version of that shoe, the one
Yep.
that I have. When is that one slated to come out?
A couple of weeks, and I'll show you too. First off, shout out to Mr. Beast. You missed the shots
Yeah.
you don't take, so guarantee I'm going to put a note in your inbox. That'd be really fun. I love what he stands for as well, with how much he gives back. So this is an Easter egg that only people who watch this, because I probably will never reveal this anywhere else. So this is the anti-grab one.
Mhm.
And what I really wanted to do, just from a sheer manufacturing perspective, to keep costs as low as possible to consumers, it's expensive to open new molds. So my thought was, what if we put this really interesting channel that's part of a design aesthetic that we don't need to open a new mold, rather we can fit a piece into the bottom. So this shoe is the same shoe, but with an oil slip variant added to the bottom. So if anybody has these, you could, I don't recommend it, but you could peel it off, and underneath, fun Easter egg, will be the original anti-grab
Ooh.
ones. But we did this to keep the lightweightness, to keep the cost down without opening new molds. And what's nice is the oil slip is really the one that we saw the highest demand for. And for businesses, it's cost savings. Not only cost savings, but it's just taking better care of your employees. Because I've walked the floor. When you go from an oily kitchen to a carpet to hardwood and back and everything in between with a tray in your hands, it's like you're going through an amusement park and you're just trying to figure out, is the ground there or not? And so the oil slip resistance, A, is a much better experience for employees, but B, it's really expensive when you have to pay out a workers' comp claim for slip and fall. So for businesses, that adds up. It's anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a case when somebody slips and falls. So we dug in there. A lot of slip and fall shoes aren't comfortable. They don't look great, so they don't have as high of adoption. Varying degrees of price points. So we're going, well, this is kind of cool. Let's add on this oil slip resistant bottom. So if you're front of house, you're not in the slippy areas, you wear this guy. If you're back of house, there's the variant that covers your feet. And then for businesses, ultimately, this ends up being a cost savings while doing good for your employees.
What type of socks do you recommend for someone wearing them? Because I know that can play a factor in it. Like, do you suggest that people don't wear too thick of socks, or do you suggest actually a more thick sock?
Yeah, I'd even go more basic. We just recommend socks. I know there's a culture and folks that don't like to wear socks with shoes in general. Just socks. If you are gonna wear them, I would say definitely ones that cover your ankle or above, just to make sure that you have that premium contact point, because people don't realize as well, oftentimes with shoes, if they say it runs hot, for example, their socks have so much to do with that, really with the airflow. If you've got a really thick sock that doesn't permeate airflow, it's not your shoe that's making your foot hot, it's your socks. Being said, we've accommodated for that, so there's a lot of room for ventilation and breathability. So you don't actually need to have a super cooling sock. These shoes feel pretty breezy on your feet with just run-of-the-mill cotton socks. However, what I would say on a separate note, just in general, we found that if you're on your feet all day, compression sock, we don't make socks, but compression socks are really good for blood flow. If you're on a plane, same thing, as I'm finding out with my wife pregnancy as well, good for blood flow, compression socks. Not all compression socks are the same. There's varying grading and degrees. Some of them call themselves compression socks, but they're just really tight. True ones have different variants and pressure. But if you're on your feet all day, compression socks seem to be a pretty good move. If you're just casually walking around in the shoes as well, your basic Amazon cotton socks will do the trick.
Yeah, I've been wearing like the crew sock with them because it's if you're just standing and not moving in them, you're fine. But like any shoe, as long as it does help to, like, the no-show ones don't necessarily make sense. That's essentially the same thing as being or the full no-show, the ones that are like below
Right.
the ankle. That's essentially like not wearing any socks at all, and you still need socks in them. I mean, you made it's a high quality product, and I'm sure if someone was wearing it without socks, it's just like if even if I wore my on shoes, right, and I went
Mm.
barefoot, you're gonna have some. There will be just rubbing, right? So like a
Yep.
sock does make sense. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Um,
Absolutely.
but I was very impressed with how light they were too. I honestly wasn't expecting it because when you feel it, it feels like it's obviously it's well made and it's a thick material, but you wouldn't expect it to be so light. So talk me through the thought process on when you were determining what was the ideal weight. Obviously, standing and having a shoe that's not heavy is
Mhm.
important. Talk us through that.
Yeah, I like going extremes when thinking through design because it helps you understand what's important and what's not. So, an extreme is, and I have to do this on some factory visits, you put on these steel toe clamps that go on your shoe and they weigh like a ton of bricks. And it's maybe 30 seconds into your tour, you're going, I'm good. I don't need to see anything else. I can't wait to get these things off my feet. Well, if you imagine, because there's heavier clogs and things like that that have had commonplace, but if you're physically picking up and putting down a brick every single step that you take, it's exhausting. let alone the fact that if a lot of times they're really solid materials, and when it's that solid, when you hit the ground, you hit the ground. It's an impact on your body. So it was a play between what's called shore hardness, the hardness of the material, but everywhere we could, we shaved out unnecessary elements. And it's a balance. If you go too thin, then the shoe's not a well-made shoe and breaks down. If you go too thick, it's just unnecessary. So interestingly enough, when I was looking for a designer, my dream ask was somebody who comes from the automotive world, specifically Formula One, if we could. It's fun because our designer actually has a background and original passion for designing really slick, sleek cars. So it's the same concept of how do you slim out weight without sacrificing performance. So in a way, what Formula One does and how they change and shape their cars is all about lightness without sacrifice of performance. So in our process as well, we go through iterations. We try on a shoe and we say, what happens if we shave a little bit off of here? Does that change anything? We'll have it printed. We wear it. We see what the functionality is. And if we can't sacrifice there, but actually this part right here, let's do without that and see how that feels. So it's a constant iterative process. 3D printing's come a long way. We work with a company, an office in San Fran, shout out to MakeLab, who does really high fidelity 3D prints. They're heavy, but you can wear it, they flex and breathe, and you can get kind of a weight ratio of exactly what it's going to feel like. So a lot of it is trial and error. And then interestingly enough, something that came from a customer review, a 1-star review, he said, my shoes are a little bit too tight, but what I found is if I cut out this part of it, it fit better. So we cut that out is in this new iteration of the shoe. Turns out it breathes more. It allows for your, oh yeah, all the new features and functions. I think that, there you go.
Whoa,
Fireworks.
I don't know how that even happened.
Oh,
All right.
yeah. There's all kinds of crazy ones. I think there's concert lights. I digress. Anyway,
Wow.
so a lot of it is trial and error, stripping out the parts that we can, keeping it as light as we want. And then overall, it's just the less impact and weight that you're carrying on your foot, the less energy actually ripples back into your body. So lightweightness in a shoe matters for your energy levels, your fatigue levels, the impact on your body. So that's always been paramount for us. How can we minimize the total amount of weight that's actually on your foot?
Super interesting. What's next for you? What are you most excited about over, let's say, the next couple weeks, months?
Yeah, and actually, I see someone in the chat, Don, can they
Oh
accommodate
yeah.
insoles and custom orthotics? Yes. The nice thing is the insole design itself comes out. These are both machine washable. That's just pretty cool. You can put any kind of insole you want in it. That being said, there's a really bad practice in the footwear industry where they put really cheap insoles into shoes because they go, well, consumers are going to throw it out and put another insole in. Well, good insoles are 75 bucks plus. So in my mind, I'm going, why not just invest the money ourselves in a better quality insole? So these ones we partnered with Ortholite for a custom shape and material. So these are actually pretty good, but if for whatever reason you needed to put your own in it, very, very easy to swap those out. Good question, Don. And actually another one, customizations. So I don't know if you played sports as a kid and wore the mouth guards, but when I was doing that, you put it in boiling water and then you put it in your mouth and bite down and it forms to your mouth. Something that we found with the shoes, again, Happy Accident Lab, if you take a hair dryer to it, warm it up, make sure it's not hot to your skin, but you put your foot in and this material will actually mold 1-to-1 to your feet, which is really cool. So as soon as you get them on, if you heat them up for 10 seconds and then put it in, it's the perfect fit to your foot, which they do that with insoles. And I think we're the first to be able to do that with the shoes. So that's really fun. But getting to your question of what's next. So what's next for businesses? I think there's a whole eye-opening opportunity of I can keep my workers safe but comfortable at the same time. So a lot of it is how do we spread the word and spread the message a lot of it has come from employees themselves buying and wearing the shoes and saying, I think these would be great if we could have this offered as an employee perk. So our laser focus for the next 6 months is reaching out to businesses that have employees on their feet. We've got payroll deduct programs. We have fully subsidized, partially subsidized programs, customizations as well. If we do follow-up number 3, I'll show you some of the cool ones that we're working on right now. I've got some really interesting camos and custom logos and prints and designs on the shoes as well. But that's really the next 6 months, build that out. And on the flip side of that, it's the consumer piece. And the consumer piece has been all inbound. So we're really active in our direct messages and hearing. We just talked to a basketball coach and he's gone, I really want my guys in something more protective on their feet off the field. And for us, laser focused as a small core team, our mission and directive is let's grow the business in this B2B arena. But we don't need to do that and leave out the consumer side. And the way that we're approaching that is building our ambassador group and our customer base. So again, I get on a phone call for 30 minutes, and that's an investment in my time to better understand how is this resonating, what can we do better, and what's working. And then we deputize those individuals. So they've joined our teams, we send them shoes, they go out and speak it in their local communities. So we're building this in a really organic way that's not capital intensive, and it's directly with passionate individuals and consumers, because I do believe there's a world where both of these come together. It's really difficult to run a direct-to-consumer business and a B2B business. In fact, in very few cases is that successful. So we've figured out a strategy and a way to go laser focused on B2B and let our community be the driving force behind our consumer groundswell and growth.
I didn't think about that as a potential channel, but like football players, basketball players, like baseball players, so they haven't put on their game cleats or shoes yet. Instead of wearing Crocs, right? Because I have these here too. Get rid of those and go pick up yours instead. I like it. I like it a lot. Well, I hope we can definitely stay in touch and let us know when there's new updates and we can share that. And I know again, I love the shoe. I wouldn't have had you on if I didn't like them, because I'm not, I would have had to say mean stuff. So no, I'm just kidding. I would never do that. You built a great product, and you're doing it the right way. Great attitude. Always fun chatting with you, and obviously wish you the best of luck. And let's definitely stay in touch.
Sounds good. And one thing I'll leave you with as well, I'm a big fan of analogies. I used to be a swim coach, and I realized that teaching kids, it's a lot easier when you speak in terms of things they understand, but adults are the same way. We just don't do it because we don't want to feel like we're dumbing things down. But with shoes, something that's really interesting, I've noticed a trend with either injection molded shoes or ones that are designed for certain purposes that they don't have insoles in them, and that's kind of like having a box spring without the mattress. So yeah, it looks great and it's there, but you're missing the other half. So if you don't have an insole in the shoe, that's really where the magic comes together. And something that's unique as well, where we haven't seen other footwear that's available, where it feels kind of good and it's just not quite there. Well, as soon as you break that down, it's like, yeah, if I took my mattress off and slept on the box springs, it's still a bed, but I'm missing all of this luxurious comfort that I can have. So those two together has really been the sweet spot. But yeah, I think much more to come. Would love to stay in touch. Athletes off the field is, I think, a really interesting avenue as well. Protect your feet off the field so you can perform on the field. So a lot of ways we can take this, but for the time being, I'm appreciative of our growing friendship, the time, the opportunity to share what we're doing, and knock wood, if things go well, I'd love to be able to do this for many years to come.